Hello, everyone. Did it again. Hello, everyone. John Marshall, the DrillMaster, here with I'm pointing at the picture like you can see it. Here with a critique of this photo that I posted earlier today. And it's from, I think it's 5 years ago. So this is 2023. First few days of 2023. This is from about 5 years ago or so. Don't know the squadron. Really doesn't matter. It's not necessary. But I I put it out on social media, on all the platforms that I'm on, and asked for. And you can see up in the corner here, it says "You be the judge." And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted you to be the judge and to help help create in your mind a more critical eye. So when we have that critical eye, it's not necessarily a negative critical, although some people can develop a negative critical, and we don't necessarily want that in this context. When we're adjudicating, and I've been a judge for many years. When I'm adjudicating, when others are adjudicating, you're not supposed to be completely negative. You should try and find. Now, sometimes I'm a little guilty of that, and you should try and find some positives in here. So what I wrote is there are at least 8 things that are wrong here. And rather than reply to everybody on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, I thought, all right, I'm just going to make a video and we'll cover we'll cover the gamut here. All right, so let's start off. We'll go individual, excuse me, by individual. So let's start off with the right rifle guard. Actually, there's not a lot wrong here. He looks very good. He's wearing his belt over, not above, but over his uniform belt, which is really nice. Uniform belt here, and then having the the web belt. That he's doing a great job. Now, some of you commented about not everybody has belts on, and they should. And actually, it's so. This is where tradition and regulation, they all just kind of get confused. Right? They're in an Air Force uniform, but they're different from Air Force Junior ROTC that are in an Air Force uniform, that are different from active duty honor guard airmen that are in an Air Force uniform. And so you've at some point you go, what's going on? Why do we have so many of these standards? Which is exactly my question as well. Anyway, Civil Air Patrol has 2 manuals, Drill and Ceremonies Manual and an Honor Guard Manual. Both of them are written really badly. Sorry. My recommendation for the Drill and Ceremonies Manual when I had input on it was don't publish. And because of, I'm positive because of my recommendation on that, I never got to see the Honor Guard Manual. Excuse me. Anyway, let's move on. So right rifle guard, left hand is too high, and it looks like you're flaring your hand. So it actually looks like you have. Well, nope. It's out in the trailer. All right, so I have that rifle that they have. It's the shorter replica of a 1917, the Enfield rifle. So anyway. But it looks like, and you can see my sling here, green sling, but it looks like he is flaring his hand like this. The hand flares are just silly, honestly. Everybody needs to stop flaring your hands, all right? Whether it's on an axe or a rifle, stop flaring your hands. My goodness. It's just ridiculous. This flaring the hand forward here and flaring the hand forward here. How are you holding on to the rifle? Now, this rifle is a couple of pounds, so it's not a big deal, and I'm letting it sit right here on my thumb. But for goodness sakes, what's with the hand flares here? Where does this come from? I don't know. Anyway, wrap that hand around. And the pinky, here's the upper receiver. The pinky needs to be at the metal, right at that metal piece of the upper receiver. So that's when you hold it at port. And here's when you hold it at present, along that same line there, the same line where that pinky should be. So left hand is too high. It's up at the upper sling swivel. Now, as far as and the rifle is nice and vertical. He's doing a great job. It even looks like it's about 4 inches. So average man's fist is about 4 inches. You put that right at the breastbone there, and you bring the rifle up to that measurement. So easy to measure on guys. A little more delicate situation for our female cadets here, but it still applies. So you get that estimation there of the 4 inches. So let's look at his right arm. Now, I'm not a fan of this look where the arm is absolutely 100%, broomstick straight. That's not natural, and we're supposed to have a natural look to here. Now, when we say that the right arm should be fully extended, there's several caveats to that. So one of them is the front sight is going to be at eye level. So when I'm at present, I'm going to have that front sight at eye level. All right. Remember, we're talking Air Force here. So front sight at eye level. Now, when I do that, if you notice, my right arm has a slight bend to it. So that's where I am when I'm at present. So I've got that slight bend to my right elbow. He doesn't have that. Now, granted, and he also should be wrapping his fingers like I was. So we don't necessarily do this, the hand flare with the thumb tuck behind, if you can see that there. But we follow the Army's tradition of the grip, and which is in the Air Force pamphlet. The latest edition of Air Force Drill and Ceremonies Manual is the Air Force pamphlet. So, but it still has the same pictures in it that it has had for many years, where the fingers are wrapped. So we follow the beginning and ending techniques for parade rest, for attention, for present, and then we use the transitions. Because we're supposed to be on the outside shoulder, we use the transitions that are developed for that situation from the Marine Corps order. But we still have to wrap those fingers. Boy, I'm sorry. So anyway, my preference. Now I can't tell you, yes, this is exactly the way you should do this. You must have a bend in the elbow. I can't tell you that, because there is no specific guidance. I don't like the look. It's my personal preference, but I understand it when somebody says arm, or when the regulation or anyone says arm fully extended. There's got to be some leeway in there. So, and I'm giving leeway to that arm being fully extended. Now, the other caveat is rifle length. Obviously, here these are shorter rifles. And then also the individual's height. So when I go to present and I have that, let me turn to the side here. So the front sight is at eye level, and I told you my right arm is slightly bent, not flared out, but slightly bent. But I can lower the rifle quite a bit, and it's still 4 inches from my breastbone there. So that's where the caveat comes in of whether you still have the right arm fully extended, but that you have to give the leeway of the front sight at eye level. All right, moving on. American flag bearer. What's with this grip? Where is that in any American manual? Any, just pick one. Doesn't matter, even the badly written CAP manuals. It doesn't exist anywhere at all. Please stop using it, Americans. Please. This isn't our technique. We don't do that. Other countries do this. Qatar, for example, where I taught. And it's only one hand, but anyway. So the right hand, use my pike pole, the right hand needs to be at shoulder level here, and then the forearm horizontal. This is the Air Force standard. This is what we use for regulation drill. I don't like it. It doesn't offer the stability for the staff that is required. This is much better. It's just a slight change of, I don't know, maybe 7-8 inches or so, but the difference is significant. And there's probably some kind of physics involved in that. But anyway, this isn't a grip. This isn't a grip. If there is strong wind, your left hand is then on the staff, under and touching the right. So you look like this, which looks even worse. This is bad enough. And I get the Air Force officials decades ago, they liked this, and so they implemented it. We were in, passing reviews, and that's what they liked. That's where we get the slight angle backwards of the trouser leg. When I was active duty, back when we had stone tablets, we had our trousers were straight across. And as everybody would march away from the reviewing stand, you could see our socks during the pass and review. And so it swept through the military in the 90s that we had that angle to the trouser leg at the back, and then it also created that slight break as well. So couldn't have a break in your trouser legs for ever, and they were always hemmed straight across. Now it's totally different, just because certain people didn't like the way it looked. So this, I guess, wasn't as wonderful looking as this. Also, somebody needed a bullet for a performance report, I'm quite sure, which is why the Air Force manual was screwed up in the 90s. Anyway, long story there. So these harness sockets, or the harnesses themselves, I can't stand those harnesses. Now, I don't like the plastic cup. It doesn't doesn't work at all because it has that flat bottom in it. And when you're using the appropriate flagstaff, which we'll get to next, it actually comes to a point at the bottom. Now, it's kind of like my pike pole here, but the bottom ferrule actually comes to a point, and then it can slide around in that socket there. But when you have, and I'm good, you can see my cursor, right? When you have the harness strap come into the top and also come into the side of the socket frame, then it just doesn't offer a really good balance. And I'm not sure exactly how to explain that, but when this strap, the bottom strap here, when it comes into the top strap, the socket frame hangs a bit lower, and there's such a better balance to it. It really is significant. Just like the transition from this to this is significant, the transition for the harness, this into it there, and excuse me, instead of coming into the socket frame, that's also significant. So I don't like these. I don't like the sockets. I don't like the colors harness. It's a less expensive harness. I get that. A double harness with the metal is preferable. Absolutely 100% preferable. However, it also requires maintenance. Now, these white harnesses, they require maintenance. Excuse the noise if you can hear anything in the background, but anyway, these just aren't ideal at all. And with the frames that I'm talking about, if you get the Clarino, that shiny black leather, then there's little screws that you always have to keep tight, and then keep the metal polished. And so there's benefits to the cloth and the leather and the plastic here, but there's also benefits to the other. So if you're going to do something like this harness, I would suggest getting the double harness that the bottom strap then comes into the top and not back down to the socket. All right, so we've got wrong hands and wrong arms and all that kind of stuff. Spacing is a little inconsistent throughout, but then let's get to this. Let's get to these staffs. See, if I can see correctly, that doesn't look silver. And usually on the brown staffs, these staffs are not authorized to be carried. And so I'm probably going to get some messages or notes saying, well, Civil Air Patrol, blah, 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 blah. So I started the video with the drill and ceremonies reg was badly written. Just because Civil Air Patrol writes something, let me rephrase that. The Air Force Drill and Ceremonies Manual, the Air Force pamphlet, that's been around for many years, also ties in with the Air Force instruction on protocol. In that instruction, it tells us exactly what the staff looks like. It tells us what size the flags are. It tells us the fringe. Now, the Civil Air Patrol flag has I guess it's blue fringe or maybe black. I'm not sure. Colors aren't all that great with me. So that's fine. Not a big deal. But the staff, these staffs are wrong. If the Air Force or if the CAP manual says something different, it's wrong. It's going against Air Force standards. The Air Force instruction is what we follow. The Air Force pamphlet is what we follow. We, as in those who are in the Air Force uniform. It doesn't matter if you're in JROTC or Civil Air Patrol or in Air Force Explorers. Everything is the same. We get all of our information from the United States Air Force, the Department of the Air Force. That's where we get that. Then when we go into Air Force JROTC, Civil Air Patrol, we have to make some allowances, some caveats there, because this is JROTC and this is what we do in this context. This is Civil Air Patrol. This is what we do in this context. That doesn't mean that we completely disregard what the Air Force instruction says about the staffs. They're supposed to be light ash wood guide-on staffs, 2-part or single part. The Air Force allows the one piece with the middle screw joint, if you have the 2-part, bottom ferrule, upper ferrule, all silver, and the flat silver Army spearhead, or it's also commonly called a spade. The eagle finial is not authorized at all, ever to be carried, ever. It's only for the president. The cord and tassels here. Now, fringe is required on all Air Force flags. Now, when I say Air Force flags, I don't mean the Air Force flag, the Department of the Air Force flag. All Air Force flags means that every flag owned within the umbrella of the United States Air Force must have fringe on it. Period. So, that's fringe going around the flag. This right here, this rope is called a cord, and then there's tassels at the end. Cords and tassels are not authorized on Air Force flags. Anywhere. Not in static display, especially not in a color guard. And the gold cord and cord and tassels is definitely not authorized. Now, the Army authorizes red, white, and blue, and it seems to be a matter of choice there. But then also the Marine Corps mandates that. So that's the other services. For the Air Force, nothing. No cord and tassels. Not at all. All right, so what I was going to say here, the reflection there, it looks to me, like I said, I don't do colors all that well. It looks to me to be gold colored, but I'm not sure. And usually on the brown staffs, they will have the option of purchasing a gold spade. So while you have spades, they're not the right type. And usually on the brown staffs, they're the smaller version as well. So it's getting into the nitty-gritty of all the flag and the staff stuff and all that. It's really, ask Professor Flag. He's extraordinarily knowledgeable on this, and all of this is just so convoluted sometimes it's unbelievable. However, the Air Force instruction clearly explains what is authorized for the United States Air Force, which includes Civil Air Patrol. All right, so we have the CAP flag here, and it looks like it's the group flag with the it looks like it says group right there. And then this last flag probably is the squadron flag. So that's no problem. Not at all. Nice to have 3 flags there. It looks really good. Same with the hands, wrong way. Both hands only for high winds. Doesn't really look like you have high winds all that much. Now, obviously, I'm not there. I wasn't able to witness this, but I would think that something would indicate that you're battling high winds here, and you're not. So both hands should not be on the staff. The left hand should be at the side, not on the harness socket, at the side. Being on the harness socket is an Army technique, not an Air Force technique. All right, so I understand that we have a big height difference here with this female cadet. That's no big deal, not at all. However, she's wearing the harness socket quite low. It could be at her belt. And then these two, well, he's pretty tall. So these two, he could have adjusted his harness socket all the way, as low as he could, although it looks like it might have a little bit more room to adjust. So try and get these harness sockets to be as close to the same level, but then the American can never be lower than the others. Never, ever, ever. All right, and then we have this young lady out here who is just randomly holding up a piece of wood with a sling attached to it. That's not present. She wasn't trained very well, and it looks like also she didn't have a lot of practice so that she could get the technique down. She's got that big angle outward, so she's kind of doing this type of thing, holding it out when, the barrel in, and if she brought the barrel in, it would probably be vertical and spaced well enough from her torso. Anyway, so feet look really good. That's nice. And then, so I was saying that we need to be positive as well. Try to be positive. Finish off with some positives there. Okay, you're upright and you're standing and you look healthy. So sometimes with color guards, there's not a lot of positives that we can get out there. Oh, one last thing I wanted to mention here. So the angles of the staffs. If the arms were fully extended, excuse me, again, for the millionth time, then properly extended, not doing this backward hand thing. If the arms were fully extended, then the angles of both of these staffs would be a little more accurate. You need to match to the right, and just having random angles all over the place doesn't really work at all. So anyway, thanks everybody who is commenting. I really, really appreciate that. You give me some great feedback as to what you've learned through my posts over the last few years. And I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Everybody's learning. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. Most everybody is learning. And I love to see the educated responses that come back to me. They're really awesome. And there's some who don't learn. And my posts aren't for them. Unless they want to actually get on the ball and be open to learning something. So lots of negative reactions sometimes, but most of them are purely 100% positive. Just fantastic. All right, so if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, or you can message me. Do whatever. Thanks. Bye.